Meet Todd Chrisley, real estate tycoon, man of God, devoted father, guy who flew to Los Angeles twice a month just to get his hair done, while actively hiding millions of dollars from the federal government. That's not a joke. That's his actual life. For 9 seasons, America watched the Chrisley family live large on USA Network. The Nashville mansion, the color-coded walk-in closet, the designer suits, the wholesome Christian values, the absolute certainty that Todd Chrisley is the most important person in any room he has ever entered.
All that in a bag of chips and some more.
I'm breakfast, lunch, and dinner and dessert twice a week.
Todd once said on camera, "We don't have to agree. If I don't like it, that's all that matters."
Savannah! Oh my God!
He said that to his children. He apparently said the same thing to the IRS, just without using words. Chrisley Knows Best was sold as the story of a self-made Southern success. What it actually was a $30 million bank fraud operation with mood lighting and a camera crew. And when a unanimous jury looked at the evidence and said, yeah, these people are criminals, Todd didn't accept it quietly. He called it political persecution. He aligned himself with Donald Trump. His daughter, Savannah, spoke at the Republican National Convention. They lobbied for a presidential pardon, and they got one. Then they announced a new reality show. The audacity is so perfectly layered that it almost feels intentional.
I'm hanging out with girls. I'm a Christian.
Christians get freaky.
A man who built a fake empire, got convicted for it, talked his way out of prison, and immediately went back on television. If Todd Chrisley didn't exist, you couldn't write him. This is how Chrisley Knows Best went from America's favorite Southern family to one of the greatest scams in reality TV history.
Spencer, don't plan on doing anything with my daughter that you wouldn't do with me.
But to understand how that's even possible, you have to go back to before the mansion, before the camera crew, before any of it, because this story doesn't start with a conviction. It starts with a pitch. Todd Chrisley once told a reporter, "What you see on the show is exactly what we are doing in our real life. We don't care or have the energy to try to hide anything from you." Inspirational, transparent, also said by a man who was about to pitch his family to 10 different television networks, while actively hiding $30 million from federal investigators. But sure, Todd, nothing to hide. 9 out of 10 networks made an offer. For a family nobody had ever heard of, from a guy with no prior television experience, no social media following, and no verifiable source of income that could withstand basic scrutiny.
You know about shaking it for dollar bills.
I have video games.
USA Network won the bidding war in December 2013. The show premiered March 11, 2014, and somehow, at no point in that entire process did anyone stop to ask, who exactly is this guy? The answer was simple. Todd Chrisley was a real estate developer from South Carolina who had moved to Georgia, built a lifestyle that looked incredible from the outside, and possessed one talent above all others: the ability to walk into a room and make everyone in it believe he was the most successful person there. Charming, quick, completely unfiltered.
But I know better. I'm a preacher's kid, for God's sake.
Damn.
The kind of man who says there ain't nothing open after midnight except legs in the ER to his own children on national television, and somehow comes across as the good guy. That was the show. A loud, larger-than-life Southern patriarch with a color-coded walk-in closet.
What is he here for? Bitch, you ain't gonna take nothing out of my ass, I can assure you of that.
A devoted wife, 5 kids he openly controlled, and a grandmother named Nanny Faye, who could outshine him in any scene she walked into. Film it like a sitcom. Call it reality. Let Todd be Todd.
Best hot dog.
Oh my God!
What is it? God damn it!
It worked immediately. Season 1 averaged over 1 million viewers. Season 2 hit 1.5 million. USA Network, a channel built on scripted dramas, suddenly had its youngest skewing hit in network history. Spin-offs followed. Merchandise followed. By season 8, over 2 million people per episode were tuning in to watch a man they believed was a self-made millionaire live his best life. The Chrisley brand was everywhere. America had found its favorite Southern family. Funny, loud, glamorous, and Christian. The whole package. The only thing nobody thought to check was whether any of it was real. The cracks didn't start in 2019. They started in 2017.
Looking like Heidi Klum, you came out looking like Amy Winehouse.
So funny.
When a local Atlanta news station reported that the Chrisleys owed nearly $800,000 in state tax liens. For years they hadn't paid. Not a clerical error, not a misunderstanding. Years. While Todd was on national television playing the role of a man who once claimed on a radio show to pay up to $1 million a year in taxes, he was not paying $1 million a year in taxes. He was not paying anything. By 2019, the federal government had seen enough. A grand jury in Atlanta handed down a 12-count indictment.
She has to go because you tell her to. We don't.
You see what liquid courage she's got.
Bank fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion, conspiracy to defraud the IRS, the full bingo card. Prosecutors laid out a scheme running since the mid-2000s, long before the cameras, long before Nanny Faye became America's favorite grandmother. Falsified documents, $30 million in fraudulent loans spent on luxury cars, designer clothes, and real estate, new loans taken out to cover the old ones, and when it got too heavy to carry, Todd filed for bankruptcy and walked away from $20 million in unpaid debt. Then, while the show was still on the air and the cameras were still rolling, they stopped paying federal income taxes entirely. 4 consecutive years, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, not a dollar. To hide it, they funneled Todd's income through a production company called 7 Seas Productions, which their accountant, Peter Tarantino, reported as making no profit. It was making plenty of profit. They were just spending it on themselves and telling the IRS it didn't exist. Todd's response to the indictment was immediate and completely on brand.
Right, they hurt. Nanny, I don't even know what you mean half the time.
He went on Instagram, not to a lawyer, Instagram, and blamed a disgruntled former employee who had stolen from them, forged their signatures, bugged their home, and was now feeding fabricated evidence to federal investigators out of pure revenge. It's the kind of story that sounds just plausible enough if you've never seen the other 10,000 pages of documentation the jury had.
And
Savannah, don't start with no. What is in it really?
snake venom.
The trial ran 3 weeks in June 2022. The prosecution walked the jury through the mechanics in granular detail. The jury came back unanimous, guilty on every single count. Todd got 12 years. Julie got 7. Peter Tarantino, the accountant who filed the fake returns, who sat through 3 weeks of testimony, got 3. After the verdict, Todd went on his podcast and said, "I would have remorse if it was something that I did." After 2.5 years in prison, his fellow inmates had given him a nickname, Teflon Todd. He wore it like a badge of honor, which tells you everything you need to know about where this story goes next. Todd and Julie Chrisley had been found guilty on every single count by a unanimous jury. Their appeal was going nowhere. Their 12 and 7-year sentences were very much real. At this point, most people would accept the situation and start counting days.
And look what I found in the garage. The 3 stooges, Larry, Curly, and Mama.
Todd Chrisley is not most people. The new narrative was simple. They weren't criminals. They were conservatives being persecuted by a weaponized justice system. And the proof? A prosecutor had allegedly called them the Trumps of the South, using it as an insult. Never mind that this claim surfaced on Savannah's podcast in September 2023, more than a year after the trial ended. Never mind that Todd's own trial attorney said he didn't believe the remark was ever made. The story was out there now, and it had a life of its own. Savannah Chrisley took that line and ran with it like it was a relay race, and the finish line was the Oval Office. She went on conservative podcasts. She appeared on Laura Trump's Fox News show. She delivered the line at the Republican National Convention in July 2024, standing on stage in front of thousands of people. He called us the Trumps of the South. He meant it as an insult. But let me tell you, boy, do I wear it as a badge of honor. Crowd goes wild. Savannah becomes a conservative media figure. The Chrisleys are no longer convicted fraudsters. They're political martyrs. It's a genuinely impressive rebrand. Evel Knievel couldn't have made that jump. There was just one small problem. Variety read the transcript, all 3,400 pages of it. Trump's name did not appear once.
Can't go in there.
How do you lose a 200-pound grown-ass granny?
She moved quick.
Politics did not come up once. No prosecutor called them the Trumps of anything, in open court or otherwise. Juror Glenda Hinton said it plainly. Politics never came up. Trump never came up. It was strictly a fraud case. Peter Tarantino, the accountant who went to prison alongside them, confirmed the same. He said he never heard the remark and that it would have caused an immediate uproar if it had. He also noted, with what must have been spectacular bitterness, that he was not pardoned. When Variety confronted Savannah, she clarified the comment was made in a private meeting between the lawyers and the judge, not in open court, which is a very different claim than the one she had been repeating publicly for over a year. But the story had already done its job.
You to lock up.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm serious as a heart attack.
Here's the part that makes it even better. In 2016, Todd Chrisley was asked about the presidential election. His verdict on Donald Trump? When you have a choice between Hillary and Donald, we're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. That's a direct quote. The man who 9 years later would thank Trump from a Nashville hotel podium once called him unfit for office. The family that built their entire pardon campaign around being Trump's ideological soulmates had to quietly pretend that interview never existed. It didn't matter. Savannah had lunch at the White House in February 2025. Their attorney was telling NBC that Trump was seriously considering a pardon.
So this is the good, juicy part that I want to get. I love when it's juicy.
Nasty, nasty.
On May 27, 2025, Trump called Savannah from the Oval Office. The call was filmed and posted to social media because, of course, it was. "I don't know them," Trump said, "but give them my regards and wish them a good life." Full pardons. Both of them. Clean slate. As if the $36 million in fraud and the 4 years of unpaid taxes simply never happened. Todd walked out of federal prison in Pensacola the next day. He held a press conference. He thanked God. He thanked Trump. He said he had no shame. He did not thank the Atlanta banks he defrauded, which seems like an oversight. 5 days later, new Lifetime show announced, Chrisleys, Back to Reality, premiering September 1st, 2025, prison to pardon to prime time, elapsed time, 2.5 years. Respect the hustle. Actually don't, but you have to at least acknowledge the audacity. Here's the thing about the Chrisley story that makes it genuinely different from every other reality TV scandal. Most of these people fall off. The Chrisleys turned the fall into a content strategy. And it worked. That's the part that should actually bother you. Because what this story proved, not suggested, but proved,
I think that you should be allowed to do a little something.
With a 19-year-old?
Papa was 10.
is that if you're famous enough, loud enough, and politically connected enough, a unanimous jury verdict means almost nothing. 12 ordinary people sat through 3 weeks of evidence and came back with 0 holdouts. The appeals court upheld it. The judge sentenced below federal guidelines. Every legal mechanism worked exactly as designed. And a single phone call from the Oval Office made all of it disappear, based on a story that journalists dismantled in an afternoon with publicly available court records. Todd's own trial attorney didn't even believe the Trumps of the South line was ever said. It didn't matter. The story was loud enough, and loud beats true. The Chrisleys are back on television. Todd has no shame. His words at a press conference, days after walking out of federal prison. They have a new show, a new platform, and a new story to sell. And enough people will watch it to make it worth filming. That is why it's so bad now. Not because Todd and Julie Chrisley got away with it, but because getting away with it made for better television. The Lord may have their souls, but their lifetime deal, that they kept all for themselves. Todd Chrisley once stood in his color-coded closet in the middle of active bankruptcy proceedings.
Yeah, so Chasey came in one night and
And told America he was a self-made success. That took confidence, that took nerve, that took the specific psychological wiring of a man who has never once believed that the rules applied to him. And ultimately, that's exactly what got him out of prison. He didn't win on appeal. He didn't find new evidence. He performed his way out. He and his family built a narrative, attached it to the right political identity, repeated it loudly enough, and converted a 12-year federal sentence into a lifetime docuseries in under 3 years. The $36 million in bank fraud? Gone. The 4 years of unpaid taxes? Gone. The unanimous jury verdict? Legally erased as if it never happened. All of it wiped clean so Todd could stand at a press conference and thank God and Donald Trump in the same sentence.
Hey, y'all.
What is taking you so long? And what bank did you rob with that hat?
Which is a combination of words that would have been unthinkable when he was actively filing for bankruptcy in 2013. Chrisley Knows Best was never about a successful family. It was always about a man who was extraordinarily good at making people believe he was something he wasn't. The fraud didn't start when the FBI knocked. It started in season 1, episode 1, when Todd looked into the camera and played the role of a man who earned any of it. The cameras are rolling again. The performance continues. Same family, different network, better villain. And Peter Tarantino is still not pardoned. If this is the kind of reality TV breakdown that belongs in your feed, subscribe. New video every 3 days. And trust me, the next one is just as bad as this.